Great rising and great day to all of you have showed up to the midday message. Again, my name is Shola Ade, and I am the founder of MBS Complete. If this is your first time here, welcome to this space. And if you are a frequent repeat, welcome back. Go ahead and get your pen and papers, go ahead and get your journals, get ready to take some notes. Because this topic that we're talking about today is so critical, especially in a working world. If you are in the United States, you understand how challenging it can be to balance work and life. And then also, maybe if you have other roles, such as being a parent, such as being a mentor. Maybe you're in a relationship. All of these roles that we play can take a toll on how we feel mentally, physically, especially emotionally. So this topic is very critical to bring to the forefront. Okay, so as you all get ready to take notes, let's just take a few minutes to, again, get acquainted with this space where we are right now and get ready to really tune in. All right. So today we're going to be talking about burnout and balancing burnout. Okay. Now, as I said, living in the United States, it's challenging, right, to balance the expectations that we have at our jobs, the expectations that we may have at home. And so, with those expectations that we have from others, as well as the ones we put on ourselves, that can create stress. That can create a space of repeated, reoccurrent stress, right? And so, with that persistent stress, like with anything, too much of anything is not beneficial, right? And so if we have too much stress, then we enter into these spaces of feeling burned out. And it happens so often to many of us that there was even a term created called burnout. Now, it's not a medical term, it's not a psychological term. However, it is a widely accepted state of being that many people are now recognizing. So much so that it has its own category of signs, things you can do to release the burnout or decrease the burnout. And then things you can do to put up a boundary, so to speak, so that when you do get into those states of feeling very stressed, you can then say, "Oh, I know what's happening. Let me pull back a little bit." Right? And so this workshop series, we're going to really talk about what is burnout, okay? How to one recognize it, how to then create again different tools, different mechanisms, techniques that you can use to balance that. Okay, so this is going to be a series just like we did the trauma series. If you haven't seen the trauma series, please go back and watch the previous videos from the midweek message. Okay. In a lot of ways, this is related, right? Because if you've experienced a trauma or again, you've had a very stressful or distressing life event happen or an experience happen, you tend to overwork yourself. You may tend to overwork yourself to compensate for that. So if you haven't seen it, I won't get too much into it. If you haven't seen it though, please go back and watch that. And I also will be making references to that video or those videos within this series. So again, if you want to stay in tune, stay informed, please go back and watch those. All right, so let's jump in. What is burnout? Okay, simply defined, or maybe more complexly defined, it is persistent stress, that involves mental, physical, emotional, maybe even spiritual fatigue. right? And so with that comes a sense of low productivity, a sense of uncertainty around that identity that you may be holding space for. So again, if you're a working professional, if you are, even if you're a teacher, right? If you're dealing with a lot of children on a daily basis, if you are dealing with a lot of adults, even if you're a manager, something like that. Maybe you're a counselor, a consultant, many different roles we can play, right? If you're a parent, again, if you're dealing with your own children or working through the challenges of having your own children and parenting and caretaking, okay, maybe you're even taking care of an elder, right? Somebody in your family. Maybe you're in a relationship, right? And so there's a way that you show up in that relationship in order for the relationship to continue in a healthy way. That takes work, that takes effort, right? And there are so many other aspects of life that we can hold space where we are also expected to perform. Okay, so just think about right now, just take a quick minute to reflect. And also, I mean, if you would like, write that question down, so that you can go back to it later. Where am I expected to perform? In what areas of my life am I expected to perform? And just get a clearer idea of what that is, right? Because this is also a part of recognizing the burnout, is recognizing where we are putting our energy and into what we are putting our energy. So, you know, think about that for a little bit, or go ahead, like I said, and write it down and come back to it later, because you may find that there are so many things that you're involved in. And so naturally, there's going to be a lot of obligation, a lot of responsibility. And so, again, how do we navigate that and continue to show up for those responsibilities in a way that has us operating at our optimal state? Okay. Now, also, I want to be clear. When I say optimal state, it doesn't mean that you are constantly being in this state of producing and doing and working and being at the top of your game, right? Some days you may not be there, right? So the optimal state is not necessarily a level of functioning in regards to your productivity. The optimal state is you feeling well within yourself, you feeling satisfied within yourself. And that may not always mean that you're on the go, you're turning these numbers that are super high and you got super high marks. That may not mean that at all times. It may mean that you're paying attention to where you are at that point in time, and you're recognizing that, hey, today today's a slow day for me. And so I'm going to do the best that I can. Right? So working in an optimal state means doing the best that you can at every moment, at every state of being, state of functioning. So if your best today is, maybe you can only knock out a few things on your plate, two things, one thing, that's that. And you do your best doing it. And that's, again, getting a little bit ahead of ourselves in regards to how to balance that out. But again, it's important, right? It's important to know that optimal state of functioning does not mean that you are operating at a high level of productivity. Optimal states of functioning mean that you are honoring where you are at that point in time, and you are performing to the best of your abilities as it relates to that moment in time. Okay. So, some signs of burnout: we have self-doubt, hopelessness, we have feeling defeated, low motivation, emotional detachment, not feeling in it, right? Maybe you're dealing with, maybe you're working with children or your children, and you just don't feel that connection. You know that you're doing, that they have their needs met, but you don't feel that connection. That's a sign, right? Irritability, recognizing that your fuse may be short. Something that parents generally say is, you're working on my last nerve, right? That last nerve, if it's worked hard enough, it's going to explode, right? There's going to be some sort of outburst. right? So then there may be even feelings of shame that come up because you're feeling like, oh, wow, I can't do the things that I want to do. And I'm lashing out on people. And I feel bad about that because I don't know what to do here. And so, even going back to the feelings of helplessness, right? What do I do? I'm full, right? Maybe there's even the feelings of low energy or loss of energy, you know? Maybe there's the state of you generally operating at a high energy and always ready to go. And then you notice that you don't have that same sort of vigor, that same sort of life translating to other people. That's another sign. You may even experience some increased anxiety, right? So again, these feelings of uncertainty, these feelings of worry. Oh, what's gonna happen if I don't do this? What's gonna happen? What's gonna happen? I don't know what's gonna happen. Heart's constantly racing. You constantly are on edge, constantly feeling like you're maybe walking on eggshells. If you have some sort of superior that's over you and you recognize that something is not right with me and I'm not doing what my job has called me to do. And so I'm now fearful of the outcomes while I'm in that state. Okay. So all of these are signs of burnout, feeling very tense physically, feeling unable to relax even. When you try to relax, you may end up overthinking, thinking about what you have to do, what you could be doing, as opposed to trying to relax. I mean, all of these things, right? And again, something that I really stressed in our last series was these instances and these states of being manifest differently for people. So just like trauma, right? The same two people can go through a very similar circumstance and have completely different outcomes. It's the same here with burnout. Two people could be feeling very stressed, highly stressed, and have different signs of what that burnout looks like. So again, in your journal, in some time of reflection, think about, what are my signs of burnout? How do I know if I'm too full? How do I know when I am trying to give from an empty cup? Okay. And then once you get to that state of recognizing where you are in this level of burnout, in this level of not feeling like yourself, you are then able to take those strides to change it, to do something differently. Right. And so, again, many people have different ways of managing this. And so these are just a few suggestions, a few recommendations to take into consideration. First and foremost, if you are not familiar with the 5 A's, please go back and watch them. But I'll give them to you today. But I won't go deep into it. So go back and watch those videos, please. I'm telling you, you can apply that in almost any situation. So the first A we have is acknowledge. You want to acknowledge it. You want to then pay attention. You have attention is next. Okay. You want to then be more aware of it. So bring it to a conscious level. How is it really affecting me directly right now? Get to the point of acceptance, which can be one of the most critical parts in this series. Accepting that you're burnt out, you're tired, you feel helpless, you feel very anxious, you're stressed beyond your means. You feel emotionally unavailable, emotionally detached. Accept that, right? And we talked about acceptance, and we'll talk more about that next time or in our later videos, how compassion is really critical here as well. So accept that this is where you are. Give yourself that compassion when you recognize it, okay? And then be willing to take action. That's our last day. Acceptance and action. Okay, so in taking action, what you can do is first and foremost, slow down. Slow down. Take a breath. Breathe. Meditate. Allow your mind to become calmer. And you have the ability to facilitate that process of slowing down. There may be so many things going on around you, right? If you can be still within those moments of everything moving so quickly, you can then, again, empower yourself to move forward, to choose how you want to show up in that space. And so, in you choosing, right, what you can do is create a to-do list, a task list. Not even a to-do, a task, right? Because sometimes you're not going to be able to do everything on that to-do list, okay? Doesn't mean it's not going to get done. There's a difference, right? It can get done, but it doesn't mean that you have to do, okay? So a task list. What are some things on your task list? What are some things that will get done? It may not be by you alone. It may mean that you're reaching out and asking for assistance. It may mean that instead of you putting that task on the calendar for this week, maybe you move it to a different week, knowing it's still going to get done. It's just not going to get done right now. And then that goes into prioritizing, right? So organizing your list so that it's realistic, reasonable, and respectful. Okay? 3 R's. Realistic, reasonable, and respectful. Realistic in the sense of what can I do based on where I am right now? That's realistic. We're not taking on more than we can handle because we're already at the stage of burnout, right? So what's realistic in this state? What's reasonable? What is possible? Right? What is possible within reason? Right? So why are you doing it? That's the reasonable, right? Why are we doing this right here, right now? And if it's reasonable based on that realistic perspective, then we also want to ask ourselves, is it respectful to, again, where we are in this stage of functioning? Are we respecting and honoring ourselves by putting that task as number one? Or would it feel better? Would it feel more respectful or honorable to you as well as maybe to others if you did it at number 5? Because you know that if you do it after doing some of these smaller tasks on your list and you let it go down to number 5, maybe you're able to produce results that are, again, your best. So maybe it may take some time for you to build up that momentum before you can get to that larger project, which requires more from you. So instead of putting it at number 1 where you have no energy, you put it down lower after you're able to create more energy. Now, again, right, the task list doesn't always have to be a work-related responsibility. It doesn't always have to be something that you have to do for work, that you have to do for kids. It can be something that you do for yourself. So maybe meditation is number 1. Slowing down, right? Maybe making yourself something powerful to eat, something that will re-energize you, revitalize you. Maybe taking a break is on that list, right? So think about what needs to get done, what needs to get done first, what needs to get done in order for you to feel accomplished, what needs to get done in order for you to feel fulfilled. Okay. And again, you want to give yourself some compassion and some understanding as you are creating these lists and as you are also setting these boundaries for yourself. Okay. So these are all aspects of you being at a state of recognizing where you are, honoring that space of burnout, and then making those very subtle yet powerful yet intentional steps of shifting that. Okay. So, as always, thank you so much for choosing to be here, to put yourselves first. And stay tuned for next week because we're going to go a little bit deeper into this again, self prioritization and how to balance burnout in the grand scheme of things. Alrighty. So thank you all for showing up. Have a wonderful rest of your week and continue to recognize where you are and honor that. Until next time, have a wonderful day.